Hey guys, it's Kyla. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my August wrap up. How many books did I read in August? I literally just had the number in my head and now I can't remember. I read 9 books in August, which I think is the most I've read this year, which like I really was planning to read more and I have been reading more. It's just the books that I'm on right now, I don't have finished yet, but I do have a lot of good books that I have finished that I'm ready to talk about with you guys. So we're just gonna jump right on into it because I have so many and so many things to say. Alright, so the first book that I have is Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. I gave this book a 4.5 whenever I first rated it, but I think I'm actually gonna give it a 4 stars. I know that there's so much debate between this book and Fourth Wing. People are like, oh my gosh, Fourth Wing is better. Oh my gosh, no, like Divine Rivals is so much better. I personally really like Fourth Wing better. There was a lot in this book that confused me. There's a lot in this book that not that I didn't love or anything. It was just like I felt very confused. I didn't really understand where this book was going more than half the time, so I just like, what's going on? So in this book you are following Iris and Kit. Iris and Kit are kind of rivals in this journalist writer workspace. They like are going after the same position at this job for like this newspaper, and in this world that they're in there's like these gods or kind of like creatures that are going after the people of this world. Like gods are waking up and there's just some kind of magic system, and her brother is sent off to go to war. And so one day Iris is writing a letter to her brother and she uses this typewriter. She goes and puts the note somewhere and wakes up the next morning and the note's not there. Someone else is getting all the notes, and we know that Kit is getting all the notes. So they kind of go back and forth as anonymous pen pals to each other, and it was honestly really cute. I really liked reading about Iris and Kit. What I did not like about this book was the magic system. It just was so confusing. I was honestly lost almost the entire time reading this book. I really could not keep up with what was going on. I just was like, okay, what? I kept on having to reread parts of the book because I just did not understand. Like I didn't understand what the creatures were supposed to look like. I didn't understand the magic system. I didn't understand the whole entire gods and like them waking up, but like there's some out. Like I didn't get it. Okay, if somebody were to like sit me down and explain to me all what went on in this book, I probably would understand it, but that hasn't happened yet. Also, if you've read the book, the ending, I didn't love the ending. I really didn't like it. I honestly thought that this book could have been a standalone if the ending was just a little bit different, but instead there is another book coming out which I possibly may read, but it's not high on my TBR. Like I'm not gonna go out looking for it. I'll probably end up reading it on my Kindle or something, but I just did not love this book, which I feel really upset about because everybody was loving it and I did really enjoy it, but just the ending and then the confusion of the magic system, it just really got to me, and I was like, okay, I can't enjoy a book if I don't understand what's going on. So for that reason I did give it a 4 stars. I did really like it. If you are curious about it, definitely pick it up. I just know a lot of people love this book. I honestly could not find this book in like any stores for like a week straight. Like everybody was buying it and I was like, okay. I went to like 3 different stores trying to find this book and they were all like, we don't get any more until the following week, like sorry. So but yeah, I did enjoy it. It's just you might need to reread it a little bit to understand what's going on. And the next book that I read is Crown of Midnight by Sarah J Maas. I gave this book a 4.5 stars. Oh my gosh. So this takes place directly after Throne of Glass, which is the first book of this series. Pretty sure that everybody knows what the Throne of Glass series is about. There's really not much I can tell you about what goes on in this book. Just know that I cried. Sarah J Maas loves to hurt me, and I cried so hard about one specific character. If you read the book, you know I just got really attached to that one character. It was very upsetting. My friend and I are currently reading this series at the same exact time, so like everything that I'm confused on, I'm like, hey girl, you gotta tell me what's going on because I'm confused and I don't want to be confused. I did really enjoy this book. I freaking love Selena. I love just the ending part of this book. It hit so hard. Like the ending was amazing. Everything about it was amazing. Just the emotions that Sarah J Maas brings out of me whenever I read any of her books is just wonderful. Like Sarah J Maas is such a talented author. It's ridiculous, like genuinely. I love her work so much and I'm just ready to read more of it. Like I'm currently going through the entire Throne of Glass series right now and it's amazing. And I'm also reading Akatar at the same time and I'm like, oh, your brain is beautiful. But yeah, that is Crown of Midnight. And then immediately after reading Crown of Midnight, I picked up The Assassin's Blade. I know that there's so much controversy in the book community whether to read The Assassin's Blade as the first book or to read it as the 3rd book or the 4th book, and I don't think it's that big of a deal, honestly. There really doesn't need to be that much controversy of like, oh, you read it in that order, that's wrong. You know what I mean? Like it really doesn't matter. I did read it as the 3rd book after Crown of Midnight, which I saw was recommended, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it in that order, and I'm just gonna share my opinions. I think that you could read this as the first book. If you want to, go for it. It does provide a lot of background for Selena, because you are following her as she is 16 going on 17 in this book, and then you pick up Throw to Glass and she's 18 in that one, so you kind of skip a year. But anyway, this is the backstory of her, and whenever she is an assassin working for the Assassin Lord in Rifthold, I don't remember, Arabin, whenever she's working for Arabin, and she's working alongside Sam, and you kind of get to see her be this young girl, young assassin who is like going after these things. And there's 5 novellas in here, and each novella is a different story. So like in one of them she is fighting against a pirate lord, another she's in a desert, another she is somewhere else, I don't even know. There's so much that goes on, and the last 2 novellas in here killed me. I was distraught. Like, you know, like if you read it as a third book, you know what happens, like kind of, but in this book you really get like the full backstory. But like it still hit me out of nowhere, even though I knew it was going to happen, and even though like I knew the things that kind of happened in here, I still was like, okay, that still hurt. Like that, it was a lot, guys. But I did give this book a 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. It's not my favorite of the series, but I mean, it's a prequel. I was like, okay, it's just a bunch of novellas put together. I still did really enjoy it, and I loved getting like the backstory of everything. So, but yeah, that is The Assassin's Blade. And then right after The Assassin's Blade, I picked up Heartless by Elsie Silver for the second time. I did give it a reread. Oh my gosh, guys. This book is my favorite book ever. Like, I freaking love it. I know that I read it earlier in the summer, okay, but my birthday came around, I was like, okay, I have to reread it. Willa and Cade are my favorite couple ever. I love them literally so much. But in this book, you're following Willow and Cade. Willa is Summer's best friend from the first book, and Cade is the brother of Rhett. He basically runs his own, I don't know if it's like a farm or a ranch. I think it's a ranch. He like works for his dad on the ranch. He has a son. Willow moves into town. She's like, oh my gosh, I need somewhere to work, and he's looking for a nanny. So Summer's like, hey Cade, I found yourself a nanny, and they get off on like the wrong foot. So it's kind of like they're rivals. I wouldn't say enemies, but like they're rivals. They don't really like each other. Like, he doesn't really like her, but his kid loves her. Like, Luke in here is adorable. I freaking love him. I just love their story, like genuinely. I'm ready for the last book of the series to come out, but I'm also like, I don't want it to end, you know? Like, it's just so good. Definitely pick it up if you haven't yet. It's just such a wonderful read. And now we are at the part of the month where all I read were Kindle Unlimited books. Like, from here on out, all the books I read are on Kindle Unlimited. I really didn't pick up another physical copy for like a few weeks. The first book on my Kindle that I read was Frayed by Laura Pavlov. I gave this book a 3 out of 5 stars. I did not love this book. Like, I don't know, I'm kind of like, I didn't love it but I didn't hate it, so that's why I got a 3 stars. But this book follows Jet and Addie. Adeline is this cheerleader good girl. Jet is this bad boy football player. And in Adeline's senior year, she's like, okay, I'm ready to break free. Like, my mom is controlling me, my boyfriend is psycho, like I need to break up with him, I need to just go and find my own self. So that's what she does. She breaks up with her boyfriend. Her mom, she's telling her like, hey, I'm gonna do what I want, not going against you, but like, I'm gonna find myself and stop letting you control everything that I do. She meets Jet, and whenever she meets Jet, she really starts to take that turn in her life. But it's not like a, hey, he's doing this like to her. It's more of, he kind of paves the way for her to be able to do this. I really did enjoy the book. What I did not like about this book was that Jet actually has a really big plot line. Like, he got a really good character story, but like the author, I feel like she just kind of forgot about it. Like, she kind of just brushed it over and was like, okay, that's his thing, but like, we're mainly gonna focus on Addie. And I'm like, okay, that's great. I love to see it, but like, I kind of wish that we would have gotten more of his story and more of what he went through as well, and like his storyline, because I felt like it was unfinished. There was just a lot going on. I was like, but what happened with him, you know? And just like also the pacing of the book, almost like, so in the book they go on a little date and we get her POV at like the first half of the day, and I'm thinking, okay, we're gonna see the rest of the date in his POV. No, it skips like a week, and it did that multiple times where it's like something's actually going on, and instead of the author kind of showing us what happened, she'll show us half of it, skip a week, go to a different character's POV, and just tell us what happened after that. And I'm like, okay, but I want to see it. I like being told, but I also like, I more so want to see what the story is about. So those were like my big 2 things about it, but I did still enjoy the book. It was more like a coming of age. They're still in high school, but the rest of them are placed in college, and I did read the rest of them except for one, because each book will follow like a different character of this girl's friend group, which I really loved. I did really enjoy it. But Frayed is the first one that I read. It wasn't like my favorite, but I also like, I didn't hate it, which I felt most of that for this entire series. And the next book of the series is Tangled. This one follows Gigi and Gray. Gray is Gigi's brother's best friend. Gigi and Gray end up going to the same college, and Gigi's brother is like, hey, look after my little sister, and Gray is like, okay, cool. But of course they have a connection. It's brother's best friend. Hello, that's my favorite trope, by the way, other than Second Chance. I think Second Chance is honestly taking over the best friend's brother, or the brother's best friend, guys. Anyway, so of course they have a connection, and just, I think the reason why I gave this book a 3 out of 5 stars was because the double standards in this book for like guys versus girls was like, okay, what? Like I didn't get it almost. Like I was like, okay, it's kind of annoying. Gigi kind of annoyed me, which I wanted to love her so bad, but I'm like, girl, get it together. I did like how we dug deeper into the characters of this book. Like I felt like we got both of a storyline from Gigi and Gray, like the guy and the girl, and we got a good balance of POVs and like actually being shown what's going on. It still wasn't my favorite, you know what I mean? Like I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. I wanted it to improve, and at this point I was like, okay, am I actually gonna continue the series? Because I really don't know if I want to. I did continue the series. I did skip the 3rd book of it just because it's a workplace romance, and I know that I do not like workplace romances, so I didn't read it. But I did go into the 4th book, and that is Sealed. This one follows Coco and Raymond, and this book takes place after all the girls are out of college. Like they are done with college, they got their degrees, and now Coco is living in Houston, and she meets this guy Raymond, and they meet at a bar. He kind of owns the bar, and she's there just hanging out, but she also like writes articles for like this magazine that she works at, and right now she's trying to find a date to take to her sister's wedding, because she's in the wedding and she told her family, hey, I have a boyfriend, and they're like, oh my gosh, no you don't. Like this girl never has a boyfriend. And so she's like, yeah I do, watch, you'll meet him at the wedding. And so she's trying to find a fake boyfriend. So she runs into Raymond at the bar, like talking about like, oh, like you took over this bar and changed some things, and he's like, yeah. And then she's like, I'll like actually give you a shout out in like the magazine or whatever if you pretend to be my fake boyfriend for like 4 days. And what got me was that he has like a 3-year-old, but somehow like they met on like that Tuesday, and the wedding was like that weekend, so they had to leave that Friday and then come back Monday. And he was like, yeah. And I'm like, what about your kid? The book didn't, like, she did not explain that his kid goes off to like his grandparents every other weekend. And I was just like at first I was like really confused, because I was like, where's your kid? And then later in the book it's explained, oh yeah, he goes to his grandparents every other weekend. I'm like, okay, you should have said that at the beginning, because I'm thinking this entire time like, wow, this dad really just neglected his child for a woman. But I did give this book a 2 out of 5 stars. This was my least favorite one, okay? And I really had high hopes for this one because I loved Coco. I loved Coco and all the rest of the books. I thought she was such a fun character. I was so excited for her to get her own book. Like I was like, okay, yes, we got this, let's go. And then it came around and I was like, this is such a letdown. I'm being so negative about this book, and I'm really sorry. Like, I just don't have any really good things to say about it. So the next book that I read, I actually took a break from that Willow Spring series that I was reading, and I read the 3rd book that came out by Beck and Mac called Unravel Me. This is a hockey player romance. It's not in college. NHL, I was about to say NFL, National Hockey League. So it's like out of college hockey players, and it is Adam's story. Adam, Lockwood, and Rosie's story, and Rosie is a single mom. Adam is like this guy who in all the other books is like, he's looking for a girlfriend. Like he wants a relationship. He does not want flings. He does not want one night stands. Like he wants a relationship. But every single time he goes on a date, all the girls are like, hey, I want your money. Hey, like I just want to sleep with you. And he's like, I don't want that. And so one day Rosie and Adam are just walking their dogs by themselves, and they run into each other. Their dogs love each other, and they kind of meet up throughout the span of a few weeks, just like seeing each other as they walk their dogs. They have like this instant connection, and it was like to the point where it was like almost insta-lovey, and I was like, okay, don't like how insta-lovey this is, but I'm gonna still read it and I'm gonna still see how it is. She also does not know that he's a hockey player. Like they meet and she's like, hi, how are you? Who are you? Like, what's up? And he's like, you don't know who I am. Like he doesn't say that, but in his head he's like, oh my gosh, she does not know who I am. This is great. And as they continue today, Adam kind of comes over to her apartment one day just to like drop off some like flowers or something to give her, and he finds out that she has a son who is like 2, no, he's not even 1, and he was like speaking, and I was like, okay, like, but he's like 11 months old. How he shouldn't be talking, he shouldn't be saying these words. And like the kid in here, this was the first time in a book where I was like, this kid is annoying. Like this makes no sense. It's like an 11th month old like talking, and I was like, that's so wrong. I didn't like this book. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. I really wanted to like it. I really liked Adam. I really just did not like Rosie or her kid. Not even like anything mean. I was just like, Rosie kind of acts like a teenager. Her kid is talking, but he's 11 months old, and just it didn't make sense. A lot of it didn't make sense. I'm gonna leave it at that. And the last book that I have, the last book of the Willow Spring series. I went back and I was like, okay, I'm gonna give the series its last book. I just want to read it because the entire story has kind of been building up to these two characters' book almost. Like we've been following them in like this little thread the entire time. So the book is Claimed, and it is Ivy and Ty's story. In high school, they used to date. And then Ty, one day, something happened with his family and he moves up to Nashville, and then he becomes this kind of like country star. And so he broke up with her. She goes through college. They do their own thing for like 7 or 10 years. Something of that. Now he's back in town for his sister's wedding because he's paying for it, and it's like obviously his sister, and Ivy is the wedding planner. So they kind of have to be together for some of it. Like they kind of talk, they kind of like come back into each other's lives. I gave this book a 2.5 out of 5 stars. I really wish I did not read this one. I was really let down. I'm not gonna lie, I was really upset because I was like, okay, this entire series has been building up to Ivy and Ty's story, and so I'm like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be so good, like it's gonna be banging, it's gonna be better than all the other ones. And I was like, no, it actually was my least favorite out of all of them. They just like, he comes into town and he's like, I want you back, and she's like, okay, I want a relationship, and he's like, I don't know if I can really do a relationship because I don't want to live here. I want to go back to Tennessee. And she's like, well, I just took over this company. This is where my life is. Like, I'm gonna live here. So they have a relationship, but knowing in the back of their minds it's not gonna work out in the end. So I was like, okay, why are you doing this? And like, they were hurting themselves on purpose. I don't know. It was just, they weren't on the same page. And then at the end of it, he's like, I'll stay. Like, I'll stay. And I was like, it just feels forced. Like, it just kind of felt forced. If it would have been different, of like the attitude would have been different from the characters, then I think it would have been better. But yeah, I don't know. I just didn't really like this one. And it was the last book that I read of the month. So yeah. So these are all the physical copies I read this month, and then I read a whole bunch of books on my Kindle. I honestly started off really great at the beginning of the month. Like I was reading Throne of Glass, I reread one of my favorite books, I found another book that I really liked. The rest of it, as soon as I picked up my Kindle, it just kind of went downhill, and I was like, okay. I'm really hoping that September's a lot better. I really think it will. I'm currently on Airfire, and then I'm also on A Court of Wings and Ruin, so it's like I'm really trying to finish those books like this month. Like that is my main priority. And then hopefully I'll be reading like other books. I want to reread the Twilight series. I want to get started on my reread of the Hunger Games series. Hopefully it'll be a lot better going forward. But yeah, that is all I read for this month of August. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe right down below, comment down below your favorite book that you read this month or your least favorite. I think we all know which one was mine. I will see you guys in my next video. I love you all, and peace out.